Hello and welcome to Dice Punks, a tabletop role-playing podcast where we focus on playing full campaigns in less well-known systems. This week, in episode 52, our Nobilis try to get to the heart of the matter. Hello and welcome. I'm Adam, your friendly neighborhood game master, and joining me are...
Hello, I'm Drew. I'll be playing Leorian Cathar, the Viscount of Tempo, like a beating heart, and the Jarl of Revelry, heart of the party.
Hi, I'm Robin, and I'll be playing Lissa Crate, a frankly furious queen who's about to go mad over a betrayal.
I'm Dez, and I will be playing Romnet, and whether we're talking about murder or darkness, there's a heart that will soon be snuffed.
Excellent. We are on point today. So I think the first order of business is Romnet's XP roll.
Indeed. And for that, 6 dice, because I've never upped this pool over the entirety of the campaign. That is pair of 3s, pair of 6s. Describe for me my XP, OGM.
It's fleshy. You don't want to think about it too much.
That is adequately upsetting.
I have written that down as fleshy and unthinkable.
All right. We got our XP roll. Do we have any XP expenditure?
I believe so, because I have 6 mortal XP. I'm kind of doing this on the fly. I'm already pretty good with my hammer. After this weird masquerade thing, I think it's more fitting that Lissa gets a bit more sense. So I'm going to spend 4 to raise my empathy to 2 plus a master die. Or actually, excuse me, I still can't math today.
That's all right.
That would be 3, because there's 2 dice in there, and I'm raising it to 3.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be half. And then I'll go ahead and add 1 to my pool Eerie.
Okay.
Because that'll be essentially spending 2.
Correct. Yeah. And that should leave you with 1 mortal XP still to spend.
For a rainy day.
Are you spending Leorian?
No. I think, assuming I'm alive next time, I will spend next time.
I am going to drop 6 mortal XP on a master die for something. I am open to discussion and persuasion as I am considering weapon blades on the one hand, perform oratory on the other hand, and one of my sense skills that does not yet have a master die on the secret third hand.
The secret hand, I like that.
Perform music is Leorian's main combat skill. Is his only combat skill. I should correct that. So there could be some synergy there, but we're also, somewhat covered in that lane. If we're all together and someone has to step up for that kind of role. But I'm not against any of these. I don't know, Robin, if something jumps out at you as a deficit in the party that we could do something about. Eerie tends to come in handy a lot.
Weapon blades.
Blades? There you go, blades. Yeah.
I think I'm actually leaning against blades because if it comes down to
Don't do that. That could hurt you real
aspect.
Bad. That's true. Don't lean against blades. I was there.
He got me. I was going to say, too, that for those not looking at Romnet's character sheet currently, his pool for Eerie is 8 dice. So a master die certainly isn't ever going to hurt.
Yeah,
but it's
I have 5
sizable.
in sense, so I don't really think that sense needs to get much better, but it's on brand.
Sure.
I think that and since I can similarly preempt whatever I roll on weapon blades, coordination and blades. So that's a pool of 4 for those not staring at my sheet. With
4 solid.
4 solid, 4 solid, but also I can just miraculously go, yes, I rolled 4 10s at him.
So therefore, oratory.
So I think oratory is probably the winner there.
All right.
It sounds that way.
Yeah, since we have multiple kinds of lethal performance potential.
Indeed.
I have a one-track mind that usually
6
involves
goes to
things with
0.
points and sharp edges.
And that is 2 plus MD, but not the medical kind.
A single-edged mind, if you will.
A single-edged mind that also happens to have ADD.
Yeah.
That's why it's only got 1 edge.
Yeah.
All right. So I think that does it for our XP expenditure.
Rather longer than it usually does.
Sometimes that happens.
Feel free to edit out me spacing.
You're good. And that,
for the record, I have 2 mortal XP, which is why I didn't spend.
Yeah.
When I got 3, I got some potential plans. But
so I believe that brings us to the part of the show where we recap our last time. So with the episode 51 recap this week, we've got Lissa. Take it away when you're ready.
Hey, Dusk. I like to think about what would be in the holy scripture of the God of Nothing, and I thought of this. This above all, to thine own self be true. My head is still a little out of sorts, so I don't actually think that's my own thought, and I also somehow have the feeling that you would have liked the guy it came from, even if I don't know who or from what dimension that bard is from. At any rate, to thine own self be true. A good commandment, as it were, and one that was jeopardized by Cillian's party. Having been led to her chancel Tintern by Truth himself, we passed through the door and lost one another and ourselves. Well, Leorian and I lost ourselves. Romnut retained his memories, but we all found ourselves in the midst of a strange labyrinthine masquerade with masks affixed to our faces. Even bereft of memories, I knew that this scene distinctly wasn't me. It was all pomp without circumstance, socialization without sincerity. I hated it. I left a card game to roam room to room until I found myself alone, save for a pool in a quiet courtyard to contemplate my reflection. In these still waters, I was able to see through the mirage of ill-fitted clothes and corrected my appearance, accessories, and weapons. Ramnut tried to reach out to us in prayer, and his prayer came as an answer to my wish to know who I was. Not who I was ought to be, who I am. And that is fury. Having successfully reached Leorian, who was also fully himself despite not knowing it, even going so far as to play for an unresponsive audience, this crowd wouldn't appreciate his art anyway. Romnut made his way to us all through doors whose destination changed with each use. Ballrooms, theaters, lavish dining halls, all set pieces for an aesthete amnesia where masked socialites oft attempted to kill one another. Romnut snuffed a fair few murders out of spite and performed divinations of his estate. His visions were strange. A world with more bugs than air, a dark room with what appeared to be someone in bed, a room with a heart on a plinth. We were told that the heart of the chancel was sort of a drawing room, bedroom sort of deal, so at least one of those seemed sensible. We convened in my quiet courtyard. Through the pond felt like the most reasonable path, and indeed, Cillian had constructed a warped passage through the pool that was a bastardization of Fermana's reflective channels. We found ourselves in a room with a solitary heart that beat emptily and glowed a dull red. As we looked on in horror, and perhaps for a few of us hunger, Dosk's distant voice filled our minds. That wasn't his heart. I have the forge. To thine own self be true. Dosk, if we survive this, I'd like to solder another point to that phrase for your scripture. and to those that would be false against thee, be heartless in your severance.
Metal as hell. And we do pick up in similar solemnity, I'd imagine, in this room with this dully glowing, emptily beating heart, and the message that Dosk's voice, sort of thick with fatigue and tinny with distance, effort, sort of delivered to you that evidently the heart that he ate did not belong to Truth, despite being in Truth's chest, and gave Dosk the forge and not Truth. And there you all are.
I'm going to say what we're all thinking. Is that Truth's heart?
We did determine that the heart through the sight appears as a Nobilis, as though the heart itself it was a Nobilis.
Or is someone a heart now? I'm very confused.
I don't think that's a someone. At least it's not the whole someone, if that's what you're saying.
Do I have a recollection of how much spirit approximately Truth had, Adam?
Truth had quite a lot of spirit.
Right.
Does the heart appear as though it has quite a lot of spirit?
It does. I think I noted this last time, but neglected to mention in my recap off mic that it does have quite a strong Octoritas. Some of this silence is doubtless in character in the scene, but I will also point out that however long it actually lasts, there is the leathery of the heart sort of very faintly filling in the silence.
Yeah, no. I take out my sword. I use 5 miracle points for penetration and create a murder with it.
Okay.
I'm not just gonna dive in.
That's step 2.
Okay. Just making sure. This is not being said out loud, but
Sure.
Someone who's eaten a fair few hearts, it's nice of you to have that courtesy of step 2ing it.
We don't have any really good rice with us, so yeah, it's just gonna...
Let me illustrate this then. So, seemingly without saying anything, do correct me if I'm wrong, Romnet. Romnet reaches behind to the small of his back and pulls out the weapon.
This is extremely dumb, dear listeners, notably because that is my domain points.
Pulls out the dirk he had furnished himself with last time, and without any sort of ceremony, approaches the plinth with the heart on it, creates a high penetration murder, and sort of 2 hands stabs it, nailing it to the plinth. There is just enough time for the sound to die away, and then from an unidentifiable direction in this doorless, windowless room, is a rather loud sound of ping, 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 coom, that reverberates from some distance away. Not really easy to tell.
I will then eat the heart.
Not very easy to tell exactly where from. Romnet, you pick the sword up off of the plinth, heart stuck on the end, bloodless. Take it off the end and begin to consume it. You feel a certain amount of friction. It is unpleasant, but certainly not enough to stop you as you consume the heart. And the best way I can describe it is that you feel a shard as though you swallowed it the wrong way. It's not actually stuck in your throat, but you know how if you have something that kind of goes down badly, it feels like it's there for a while?
Oh, yes.
you've got that going on, sort of in your actual throat and sort of echoed in your spirit stuff, but with a little bit of focus.
Can I also use this as a nettle?
Mm-hmm.
This is the inevitable result of a betrayal, but at the same time, I am converting a betrayal into murder.
I will say that you can nettle 1 domain miracle point from that.
All right.
I would also like to nettle.
And the basis is?
For being bystander to a betrayal of truth itself through the murder of truth.
Let's see. A little tenuous, but miracle point I think we can do. In this case, let's have it be a spirit miracle point you can get from that. And Ramnet, you feel yourself somewhat uncomfortably, but not insecurely holding on to the domain of truth at 0 points.
I don't think we had a choice.
Of course not. That was part of her fun.
But was seeing the looks on our faces possibly worth... I mean, you have truth now, yes?
Yes.
Terrifying and potentially helpful, so why give us that much?
Why give us the forge, too? It's all part of a game. A cat playing with a mouse.
Possibly a matter of easing the digestion.
Yeah, she clearly likes those and likes that.
I will then pray to Imbi, saying, truth was actually the forge. Please get to Bor if you can.
Let's see. Roll 8 dice for sense plus eerie, please.
Okay. That is 3 10s.
You are able to immediately register that your prayer does not reach Imbi.
Do you share that with the group? I'm assuming you do.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tug on my link to Rowena. Make sure I can access her.
Yeah, you don't seem able to.
We're cut off.
We need to get to Cillian.
That's the actual trap here.
And finish this.
Yeah.
World Walker?
Or,
Truth?
yeah, what?
Where do we go?
Yeah. A divination of truth and World Walker.
Okay, so a lesser divination is a level 2 miracle.
And I have truth at 0,
Correct.
so
yeah.
I have 1 miracle point. Just World Walker, then.
Okay, you look for paths out of this room, and you think by moving the plinth out of its current position, you will be able to get back to where you entered this room from, the pond courtyard. That appears to be the only path from this place to or from it.
It's a start.
Is this the heart of the chancel?
No.
Are the sounds continuing?
No, the very loud sound faded after that last big reverberating boom. And currently it is, if anything, eerily quiet in this now quite dark, doorless, windowless stone room.
Then, yeah, I'll shove the plinth aside.
Okay. The small grunt of effort, you shove it basically over and there is a purely symbolic aperture in the floor below it. By using your sort of World Walker abilities, you'll be able to navigate through this aperture back to the
I
pond.
hold out my hands.
So you take your compatriot's hands and you change locations, vertiginously sort of emerging from this pool that reflects the night sky with 6 stars. The first thing you notice is there are now new sounds in the distance now that you've emerged from this pool. Mostly shouts, screams, and shrieks, as well as a fainter but very consistent hum of some sort. No one else is currently in this colonnade courtyard, though.
I was not privy to the vision, but is this hum in any way reminiscent of the hum from the vision?
Yeah. It could be reminiscent for those who had seen it, which I believe was just Romnet.
Mm-hmm.
World Walker consultation for direction toward the heart.
You run up against essentially a defense against exactly this type of navigation. It is on inspection an explicit and dedicated imperial miracle to prevent the heart of the Chancel from being located by path seeking. Basically the miraculous version of those radar jammers people use to not get speeding tickets.
I try again praying to Imbi.
Exactly the same results. You are unable to reach her.
Okay. Does that also have the feel of an imperial miracle?
Interesting. Your Eerie there was a very high roll, so you have less of a direct read because you have less of a direct miraculous interface with prayer than you do with movement through miraculous spaces. But you're definitely being blocked, and it seems like the best fit for an answer is that there is an imperial miracle doing it. Even if you can't sense the texture of it directly.
Okay. So we're here. We are sequestered here. This means she is probably making some move with her awake will, which means we need to find the heart, but there's an imperial miracle between us and that.
Well, finding it that way.
We could attempt to just overwhelm the miracle.
We could, and here's a thought, I perform a lesser divination of revelry, innocently asking where my host is at this revel, so that I can greet her properly. A very basic request for any partygoer.
Very interesting.
Nice.
Yeah. This is part of what I love about this campaign and this system we've devised, is that I have never once been able to exhaustively catalog the possible responses to a given situation. It's delightful. Just clicked over to Leorian's character sheet and was reminded of the existence of the word on this character sheet, Vyarl.
Delicious.
It's a lifestyle.
There is you don't run up against the imperial miracle that is stymieing Romnet's senses here. You do, however, run up against an Auctoritas with a little bit of scrutiny. You think that it would take 3 penetration to be able to divine this miraculous presence's location through its Auctoritas without permission. This means
That seems quite worth it
for you that it is 2 miracle points, I believe, because you have 3 in your domain of tempo, and so that would cover level 2 miracle being raised to level 3 for 1 penetration, and you need 2 more to get to 3 penetration. I think my math is right.
This would leave me low on domain miracle points, but I would still have a lot of miracle points elsewhere if we needed to last trumpet, as it were. So I'm thinking this is worth doing. Brief table talk with my compatriots since we're in no particular hurry in world. Yeah, cool.
I can also do a backup divination too to kind of see if that is another imperator or sealing into herself by contrast.
I'm
going to do a divination of madness.
Okay.
And I want to locate the growing madness associated with the ascension or the pull on the throne.
Yeah. Interestingly, the way that this works out for you is just that you are able to sense only one such presence within the chancel. Any imperial presence here must therefore be sort of what I've been referring to as Celian's gestalt.
And does it give me like a location as to like a general sense, not specific, but
not especially, though that may actually just be a feature of the, I'm going to use the word loosely, geography of this place. Like directions don't really mean a whole lot in a broad sense. And it's also like the weirdness of asking where is somebody from within their own body, right? The chancel is ultimately the body of the imperator. So, the compass spins a little bit by default. So yeah, Alyssa, your 2 miracle points there gets you that the only imperial presence is Celian's gestalt, and so we turn to Leorian's penetration on his divination of his host.
Can I can I clarify that means there's no other, like, when you say imperial presence specifically, that just means there's one imperator, or does that rule out other nobilis?
Nobilis wouldn't be feeling that madness from the pull of the throne, so it is not...
There's an imperator between them and it.
So not my best use of miracle points, got it.
I mean, for our listeners, what I'll summarize is that of 3 nobilis that Celian at least has had. Adeliova for beauty, truth for truth, and then the nobilis of sacrifice that you disposed of very, very quickly when you had met him. It's not impossible that she has others that could be around.
I mean, we didn't want to encounter his dead right hand.
Indeed. But what this also does help you learn, right, is that Celian's emanation, right, the mobile part of her is not here.
Okay.
you would have gotten two such presences if both parts of her were here.
We kind of figured she's making a move on Dusk, but at least that's confirmed that she's elsewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, right, Leorian, you commit some miracle points to penetration on a lesser divination of revelry to seek out the host of this revel. And you have a strong sense of Celian's presence, and at first you're having trouble kind of filtering the information you're getting through your mortal mind. You do get the sense of like an overall direction, much the same as I had described before, which is of course of limited use, because if you go to your right, you have no idea where you're actually going to end up through a door. However, a difference here is that you also get the sort of very clear perception of like the feel and the smell and the sound of like a light outdoor breeze with like hints of grass and wildflower, and it's coming from the direction of one of the doors out of this courtyard.
I, of course, convey this to the others.
I guess that's the way we need to head.
Yep.
And so you do. You head towards the door that this sort of meadow draft is sort of impossibly coming from. It doesn't abate. Leorian, you are continuing to, sort of get this sensation, and you open the doors, not the ones that Lissa had originally entered this colonnade from, nor the ones that Romnet and Leorian had entered through, but, more or less identical to those in construction and appearance. I'm assuming Leorian is leading the way here. So Leorian, you open the doors, and you are looking at a marble floored room with marble columns leading up to like a gallery around the outside with a wide set of stairs. There is a red, thick carpet trailing from a door to your right, up the stairs to your left to the gallery. However, a lot of that is pretty difficult to pay attention to because competing with the smells and sensations of a meadow breeze, which still hold up and have sort of shifted to leading you up the stairs into the gallery, there is also a hot sulfurous wind that is sort of what's the word I'm looking for here, whirling here and there through this room. By far the most arresting detail, though, is that there are swarms of what appear to be locusts gathering rapidly around the revelers in this room. You can see a couple already on the floor with insects crawling in and out of mouths and empty eye sockets, and others fleeing, swatting, falling, screaming. It is relatively appropriate to describe the scene as pandemonium. At current, there are a lot of bugs, but there are more pouring in through the doors to your right at all times.
Do they have Octor time?
Octoritates?
They do not. The bugs themselves do not, nor do the guests.
Oh, good.
Leorian, any particular immediate reaction as you're the first one through the door here?
I draw my lure, and I aim high so as not to hit any revelers, but I see if I can take out a large quantity of the locusts. And I aim sort of in the general direction of the doorway they're coming from, so as to take out as many as possible.
Well, let's go ahead and get that roll first off. So that's going to be perform music. Or no. Yeah, sorry. That is the case. Yeah, perform music. Which is going to be 7 plus an expert die.
Excellent. So that expert die is set to 6 since we're performing music and we live in hope. This is known. Here we go. Oops, sorry, that is 1 too few dice. It is not a devil's roll, unfortunately. However, it is 2 10s.
Okay. As you play, the sound is quickly swallowed by the droning of the swarm. And, the invisible projectiles that your lure casts out do knock a couple dozen of these bugs from the air between you and the doorway, and you do manage to avoid hitting anyone, but it is frankly a drop in the bucket. It doesn't, in the time it takes for you to play those notes, 3 times as many bugs as you have dropped have come in through that door, even with you aiming at it.
Are they angry bugs?
They're locusts.
I don't know how you would tell if a bug was angry, I guess.
Like, as the...
Only Disney can do that.
I don't know how you would tell if you were
Pixar.
Nissa.
Yeah, exactly.
I see. No, they don't have any emotions. They're
just doing bug things.
They're just doing bug things. Or they're doing specifically the
Hashtag
one
bug
bug things, which is attempting to consume the people in the room, very rapidly coming to include you, although as you might have predicted, the immediate effect of the swarms coming up against your Octoritas is for them to sort of thunk and then move around. So perhaps for the first time you can actually sort of see the boundaries of your Octoritas, sort of this egg shape around each of you as the air around your Octoritates fills in with bugs, and then they swarm past you and into the colonnaded courtyard.
I am, since they're not angry, I'm going to do a lesser creation of fury and make them angry at the place, not the people.
Okay.
Just trying to clear the air a little bit and at least redirect them.
It kind of works. Like, you do see their focus splits, right? And some start devouring carpet and draperies, some start like thudding into stone. It diffuses the aggression of the swarm among the various elements of the space, though it does not spare the revelers from their attention either, especially as they seem to be literally infinite. Like, there's just this one room that you're looking at, and even in just the relatively few moments that you've been looking at it, the number of bugs has increased dramatically and shows no sign of abating.
Okay. I step into Mavia. Like, the transition looks as though I'm almost stepping through an invisible door. And just kind of lean on that lesser creation of fury to give us a bit more distance than our Octoritates. So it's not quite so clear where they start and end.
Okay. Yeah, you buy yourself a little bit of extra breathing room, like a permeable barrier, as opposed to the impermeable barrier of the Octoritates, but a barrier nonetheless.
He said Octoritates.
He did.
The record shall so reflect.
Was I not supposed to?
No, you absolutely
No,
were.
I think it's just adoption of the term that I have asserted.
I think I said last time I would defer to your superior knowledge of Latin.
Okay. Romnet, do you have an immediate action in queue? Because
nah.
Okay. Can I do something else?
Sure. I mean, you are at any given time, any time that passes without you guys doing anything is just watching this room fill up with bugs and the results of bugs.
Which is not ideal. So invoking the Sovereign's Gift, I probably don't have to... Yeah, this is awful. This show sucks. 10 million locusts and nothing on. Invoking the Sovereign's Gift, I think to do this without spending miracle points, no, you know what I actually do? I take out the drum and I begin playing at such a pace that the locusts will slow their roll. I play lugubriously, so what was a churning swarm, what that looks like, I suppose I leave to you, but they no longer move insect fast. They move something much less than that. The first thought that occurs to me as Leorian is that if their wings aren't moving fast enough, do they fall out of the air? I don't know, but I start playing.
Now, this is probably not what you intended and probably not what is actually happening. But I definitely hear in my brain you playing like a relaxed reggae beat on this drum.
Sounds like canon to me.
And yeah, within this room and maybe a little ways beyond it, you're not sure how far the sound of the drum will carry. The bugs and only the bugs slow, not to a stop. And it's interesting because it doesn't appear to affect their physics, in the way of like wing beats and what. But they do sort of start moving in slow motion compared to other things. And a few people manage to escape the room in the sort of space that you've bought them. So now you have what appears to be sort of like a stately, if overly complicated, dance of bugs in the air.
I'm getting music video vibes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice, actually. We're nothing if not aesthetic.
Highly aesthetic.
It is
Anachronistically, it's like when drones form an image of something, so it's like they're moving in a way that is not natural that moment before the image coheres. Yeah.
They move like the wavelength of your music.
Yeah, there you go.
I also
do
just enjoy like taking the time to aestheticize people being eaten alive by locusts. Like
which is honestly like terribly on brand for this podcast.
I didn't want to spend too much time lingering on the absolute horror show of all of this, but certainly it has abated somewhat thanks to your aesthetic indulgence here. But
the record shows the way my brain works, I won't be able to stop picturing it. So you're fine.
The room very quickly empties of people who aren't already too injured or dead to flee it, leaving the three of you, the locusts, and the corpses, and the rapidly diminishing upholstery, thanks to Lissa's miracle. Although not so rapidly as it was, thanks to Leorian's drum.
I suppose.
I look forward to the rubber band snapback of this, and you going as if you were on speed without another small boy to teach how to talk very fast so he can approach his crush.
That's that was kind of the optimal outcome. Hopefully we'll
that was one of my favorite weird GM like moments.
I enjoyed it. That's my guiding star, of course, is like what will be fun here. So
yeah, speed may be a benefit later.
Who knows?
That's true. So yeah, the sooner I can stop doing this, the less the piper will have to be paid. But yeah, we'll see. For the moment, I keep drumming because this seems like a useful thing to have them not quite so. If they're infinite, at least let's have them not be infinite and rapid.
I take it we continue to follow the meadow-like breeze.
Yeah, I would assume so. Moving into the room, up the stairs, into the gallery, following Leorian's nose and sense of feel, mostly.
Nose feel.
Are we exiting pursued by locusts, or are they going elsewhere?
Well, you make your way up to the gallery and follow the sort of appointed path to what appears to be sort of a servant's door, in sort of an alcove, slightly concealed by a sculpture. For the detail, we'll say this sculpture is of a variety of songbirds on a perfectly abstract bit of branch, with no identifying characteristics on it. But you go around that and you come to a closed door, so presumably the room beyond could be in any state. If it doesn't have any of the bugs in it yet, then presumably an open door would be a vector for them to travel through.
How marvelous. We can ruin this party with locusts our host supplied.
It was not BYOB.
It's
BYOL.
Yes.
It was bring your own bugs. Bring your own bugs.
Sorry, I was slow to catch on to that.
It's okay. I was not very.
I was thinking
clear.
Bring Your Own Plague, which is BYOP.
That actually has
We are
a
become-
good ring to it.
I guess.
I mean, this isn't the Mask of the Red Death, Drew.
Sure. Fair enough.
Different plague.
Bad theme party. Terrible theme party.
But I think it's been done.
It sort of has. It's true. Trite.
Well, I forget what else I was going to say. So yeah, door.
We use door. It's super effective.
Until we're through it, I'm going to keep playing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's use door. Let's hope it's super effective.
Keep drumming. As you go through, there are the locusts that are moving slowly enough that if you hurry, you may be able to close the door behind you before more than a couple get in. You move through the door, and you are in what appears to be a greenhouse set up for lawn games. The floor here has sort of like cobblestone lining marking out, not cobblestone exactly, fieldstone, that's what I was looking for. Fieldstone linings marking out pathways, but the paths themselves are well-maintained lawn. It's relatively warm. And sure enough, no bugs other than the, 2 or 3 of it, came in along with you, have made their way into this room. No one is immediately in evidence, though you can hear the burbling of a fountain or waterfall or something. The sightlines, however, are not especially great because of the various plants and topiaries that get up quite high and define sort of the area in between the paths. But if you look around and up, the whole room ceiling walls seems to be done in panes of glass connected by lead and solder. The light streaming in seems to be that of like a late morning.
Is there an Arctoritas protecting the obstacles to just plowing straight through here?
Seems entirely mundane.
Does everything look normal in the site?
Yes, though I suppose looking at it with the site will give you the impression that the image beyond the panes of glass that make up the room are not congruent with what may or may not actually be on the other side, if indeed there is another side. There's no sky beyond those window panes.
Is there a clear, place we should be exiting if we want to continue following the sort of the scent that I've been following?
Not from standing right inside the door, but as you follow either the paths or Robnet's method of plowing through, you will come to see that there are these sort of iron-gated archways leading out of 2 sides of the room on either side of where you entered. One leads into a stone wall, and the other leads out through the glassed-in wall. As far as you can tell, this is just a really chill, pretty garden space that doesn't have anybody in it currently.
I've stopped drumming in case that wasn't clear, but for the moment I hold the rubber band taut.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not moving at super speed. In case the listener doesn't recall, I simply can't use the drum again until I pay back the speed deficit. And the longer I wait, the itchier I get. But holding on to it in case we need it momentarily.
So yeah, in relatively short order, you've come to the door that you would need to proceed through, which is the one that seems from here to lead outdoors. And
is the threat here that there's no threat? This one feels strange.
I kind of want to, before we go, chuck something through the glass.
You can pick up one of the pieces of fieldstone extremely easily.
Yeah, I have aspect 2, so I lob it as distantly as I can through the glass on the other side.
All right. You hurl it through the glass. It breaks several panes, seemingly effortlessly, though that sound is almost drowned out by the sound of bugs rushing through the hole you've made and into the space. They immediately begin to dine on the vegetation and beeline towards you, or locust line towards you. But, of course, your Octoritas is helping keep them at bay.
Well, I guess we'll peace out quickly through the door or the gate, whatever barrier.
Yeah. So the gate here is like fencing, like not a solid plane, and beyond it you can see what looks like a kind of grassy field leading off into wilderness. But as soon as you open it, you are looking instead at a very dark room, also full of bugs. More so than the sort of gallery room that you at first encountered them in, chokingly full. What you can make out through the bugs: rough stone floor and walls, torches guttering and sconces, and very little else can be seen thanks to the swarm.
Is there more bugs in here currently than there were in the previous room?
Since your fieldstone let bugs into the garden, I think
we can look at, in the next 15 seconds, total saturation of both the garden and the room you're headed into. As full of bugs as they could possibly be, and still have the bugs be able to beat their wings.
Honestly, on the hopeful assumption that these are not of Sealand's design, I wish them very good eating.
I have a suspicion that they are behaving in predatory fashion, so I will do a creation of fury in the ones that are currently in this room, since I assume they outnumber the ones that are entering the garden, that they are missing out on the feast in the garden, and send them on their merry way as long as the wave does not start to tip away in our favor.
Okay. Yeah, the bugs in the room before you start to rush past you as well as they can into the garden, though this seems to do a fairly minimal amount to lessen the number of bugs in the room you're headed into, because they seem to be also coming into the room from elsewhere still.
Okay.
I think we are dealing with infinite bugs rather than infinite monkeys at typewriters.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
This is much worse.
We need to give them
frankly.
typewriters. That's what'll solve
then,
this.
Yeah. Give the bugs typewriters. I urge that we make haste then.
You forge onward through this room following Leorian's senses, and you have established essentially a pattern now. This room actually appears to have been something of like a dungeon set piece, with sort of staged, equipment of captivity and torture here and there, making it somewhat darkly ironic that there are some essentially mostly skeletonized corpses kind of scattered along the way, thanks to the efforts of the bugs. But you do find your way to some stone stairs leading up another door that leads into another bug-choked room, a sort of informal listening area for a musical ensemble that is very dead. Yes?
How many chanceling murders are there in here? In this chancel? Because there was the one outside that I ended to no particularly great effect.
So you sort of cast your murder senses out, and you are a little taken aback at what you find, which is that there have been murders on an ongoing basis in this chancel for an amount of time that you cannot really spare the time and attention to calculate currently, but quite long. And each of the murders that has been done here has gone toward maintaining and reinforcing the chancel. It is currently in the thousands, maybe tens of thousands.
So it would probably be a greater destruction of murder to end them all.
Yes, and if any of them are located in the heart of the chancel, you would either need to ignore those or try to be within its sphere before you did the destruction,
cool.
because
Thank
you wouldn't
you.
be able to reach those from outside it.
Yep. Thank you for that additional coda.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was your divination previously that sort of scouted that out, so it's fairly instinctive, intuitive. That's the word I'm looking for, to put two and two together there. But yeah, there are almost any room in this entire place has at least a few murders in it, and often quite a bit more.
How fucking awful. That is in character. I relay that information.
I'd expect nothing less from our host.
Of course. Of course.
So,
of course,
Fewa would be appalled.
You find the staircase in the sort of dungeon set piece room. At the top of it is a narrow iron door. You pass through into another bug-choked room, sort of seemingly informally set up for a concert, audience and musicians alike, stripped to the bone where they sat. Follow that, path through another door out into a sort of much more typical, like, courtyard, also full of bugs, currently stripping the vegetation. As you proceed, not only are you finding each place choked with bugs, but also the sulfurous baked smell is more and more prominent, and the hot wind that carries it more and more ubiquitous. Though, Leorian, you never lose the trail here of your divination until eventually you come to the antechamber that Romnet had encountered before, where the welded shut iron door was. It is currently embedded in the opposite wall, in the stone, a couple inches, banged and bent. There's a ragged hole where it used to stand, and it leads out into what, as far as you can tell, is the source of both the hot wind and the bugs. They are pouring in along the ceiling here in an unbroken stream. And outside of this entryway is an endless red rock and dust wasteland, swarming thickly with these bugs.
Is this Sirtha or is this Fewa?
It appears to still be the chancel. The trail leads out through the door.
That was more an inquiry into the external source of the deserty bits, but also somewhat rhetorical.
Fair enough, yeah.
Did you say that's where the meadow wind is also coming from?
It is, yeah. The trail that Leorian is following leads out of this hall into that wasteland.
I pray to Ventis for safe passage.
Yeah, you
I pray to Dusk to support him.
You both feel probably that your prayers are stymied, as they have been, but the gesture is made nonetheless.
I put out my hands and if my companions take them, I let the rubber band snap, and we begin traveling fast.
Yeah, you
I'd like to quickly put in here that it's not a hand that you find when you extend, but a tentacle.
Right.
I am very certain that I politely do not jolt when I feel it, but I'm wrong.
It feels kind of like a serpent in your palm.
And you
know what I actually do? I feel it, I jump slightly, and then I look back and remember, oh right, Mavia, and then everything's fine.
And you're off.
Ish.
Trailing your companions, and you are running at essentially a normal speed, just your normal speed is out of sync with the goings on around you. It is unfortunately the nature of Auctoritates that the bugs can't splat on them like a windshield, but they certainly would if they were able to. And you follow this trail. You follow it rather quickly out of sight of the very stark edifice that you're leaving. Certainly not a building that physically contains all of the spaces within it. It is just sort of drab gray stone, windowless, with a dome somewhere set back in the center, and where the doors used to be facing this way. It's a somewhat uphill incline as you follow the trail, and by the time the drum wears off and you slow back down, you find yourself sort of threading not exactly a path, but a path of least resistance through rock and dune and scree. And now you've come to a place where the wind has made rock formations, sort of Badlands style. You don't have a good sense of how close or far you may be from where you are being led. But even with the swirling hot wind constantly blowing dust and sulfurous smell and bugs, the bugs are ubiquitous here, as they were indoors. None of that ever diminishes your sense of this sensation. So you have a journey now at regular speeds, unless I suppose you miraculously bolster them in a separate act from the drum. And a journey of indeterminate length ahead of you. So if there's anything in particular that you would like to do or discuss while you travel, let me know either way, or rather, if not, then we can sort of abridge that bit.
Yeah, I certainly expedite our travel on the level of ghost miracles, but I save any greater expenditure of strength than that for whatever lies ahead.
I also attempt to expedite our travels by making the bugs in front of us furious that they're being used as a tool of impeding our progress. And so part the bug sea, as it were.
As we pass any places where the bugs have been used as an implement of murder, I try to harvest some of that energy.
Okay, that's...
Attacks on using my estate.
Yeah, let me decide how I'm going to handle that. As you travel, you troll for unauthorized murders. How about that?
Yes.
And over the course of the journey, you manage to secure 3 domain miracle points slowly over time. I just rolled for it. So yeah, you're a little bit recharged. Eventually on this journey, you've climbed for a long time. And the going gets rougher, and the landscape gets sort of more implausible and dramatic, though it is still made entirely of red sand, red stone, sort of scree. You haven't seen a plant or an animal other than the bugs, though you have done a reasonably good job navigating the bugs, due to your miraculous natures and miracles. And you've made what you assume to be relatively good time thanks to Leorian's ghost miracles, but it's also really hard to tell because there doesn't appear to be a sun and the light doesn't change. It's just sort of searing, baking, I think would be actually the better word there, the whole way, with the same light and intensity and quality the whole way. So time starts to lose meaning. But you come to a place where climbing is unavoidable, and, you make your way up, kind of helping each other. It's not a very long climb. It's just inconvenient. And when you get to the top of that ridge, you discover that the land is sloping down on the other side. And you can kind of see something that's maybe some haze, maybe some fog, kind of down in the valley that you'd be heading into. Following the trail, you make your way down. Easier to go downhill than uphill, but the terrain is still unfriendly, and there are still just so many bugs that you can't see anything really significant other than kind of a hazy fog at the bottom. And you follow the trail down into the valley. It does start to get a little cooler, although no less sulfurous, as you get into sort of the more kind of sunken and shaded portions. It becomes more sandy and less rocky. And then you get to a point where the bugs start to abate. It takes probably 20 minutes of travel before they are effectively gone. You can still hear the droning of the swarm getting more distant behind you, but the sudden silence feels stifling, as though you've been wrapped in wool. And you start to walk through the haze. It's not exactly cool, but it is cooler than the sort of baking heat, and the sulfur smell starts to die away. Following the trail through the fog, at length you emerge. Gradually, it thickens and then thins again. And on the other side of this haze, at the bottom of this valley, you find yourself in a meadow. It's quite lovely. If you look up, suddenly there's sky. It's overcast with just little patches of blue visible between just sort of gray clouds, not stormy, just gray. Some sunlight breaks through, sort of patterning the meadow in front of you, and there is a relatively strong breeze that sort of ripples the grasses and wildflowers, which are lovely, though not so healthy and thick as to be picturesque. In the middle of the meadow, there is a split tree. Still alive, but struggling. Looks as though it maybe was struck by lightning. Leaves are in the process of yellowing, falling off. Some kind of hardwood. Nothing familiar to you from Taraxis. And beyond that tree is a large stone cottage in ruins. There is no evidence of a roof. The door is hanging off of one hinge, but you can't see much more than that other than sort of broken shutters around the windows.
How does it look in the sight?
I mean, it looks... It's hard... There's no specific marker around the cottage. You are presumably approaching the heart of the chancel here, but it looks like any currently looks like any other enchanted portion of reality through the site.
Pathfinder is the way through the tree, or the cottage the way forward?
It does.
Yeah, what does World Walker say?
World Walker
Still blocked?
is fuzzy like an incomplete TV antenna signal, but you are... If arriving at the heart of the chancel is a dart sinking into the bullseye, you are currently walking across the surface of the dartboard. You are proximate to the miraculous barrier. Leorian, your path ends here. The sensation you were following was the sensation of this meadow. So it is now.
Yeah, I convey that
guys.
to the others. I say that this seems to be as far as my instinct can take us.
I will walk midway between the tree and the cottage.
Mm-hmm. So you approach and the cottage is like sort of, the tree would be in the cottage's like front yard, right? It's quite close. It looms over the cottage. So you sort of walk to one side and then sort of between the tree and the cottage, and you don't sense a shift in your relationship to the Chancel's geography during this.
Does the tree go anywhere? Or is it just a tree?
Seems to be a tree.
Okay. Sorry, I was misled by Lissa's suggestion of tree as possible, like...
It was probably worth investigating.
Mm-hmm.
You never know.
Yeah, split tree, notorious gateway.
Yeah.
They thinking.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, I think we go into the house.
All right.
I make sure to keep hands with the other two.
Sure, yeah.
Hands are tendrils.
This and...
Hands are nearest
asterisk.
available equivalent.
Mhm.
Yeah. Hands, yeah, exactly. Hands.
The doorway into the cottage seems to be the second doorway, along with the one that exited the revel in this whole place, that just leads where it looks like it does. It's just an uninterrupted journey from one place to another. You step into the cottage and there's warped hardwood flooring with grasses and vines growing up between them and along the walls respectively. Not in such a profusion that it is indistinguishable from being outdoors necessarily, but you can look up at the sky through the ruined ceiling, just some skeletal rafters, most of them have collapsed. What's interesting is that even in this sort of entryway, this is larger than any cottage of this style that you've ever seen in reality, and laid out somewhat oddly. The construction is rustic but spacious, and the furnishings don't appear to have been weathered at all. There is a small wardrobe to your right as you enter, and then a couple, sort of empty doorways. Let's say they do not have doors in them, to the front and to the right. And there is decoration, sort of a flower wreath in pretty good state hanging on the wall to the left. There's a shelf with a variety of footwear on it a little further in. All of this is in very good repair, as though it had been just put there.
Do I still sense that we're merely in the chancel rather than in the heart?
My analogical thinking is not doing me any favors this session. You appear to your senses to be standing at the threshold of the heart of the chancel. You have
So we need to get to the bedroom.
you have not entered the specific space, but this would be akin to the stairs down to the well in Fermata.
Sure.
So
Sure.
I guess we head to where the bedroom would most make sense
Mm-hmm.
in the layout.
You move through the cottage, sort of looking for the bedroom. The layout doesn't make a ton of sense for an actual living space, and sort of as you move, you sort of find that these rooms are broadly sketched and seemingly single purpose. The room that you move into next seems to be basically a dressing room. It has a closet, nothing really much in it, but shelves and hanging rods in good repair. It has a vanity with a very expensive mirror, and quite a few ornamental flourishes sitting there in, again, it's completely unweathered. In fact, while you're moving through this room, it starts to drizzle. And you can see the furniture getting wet. So if it's been here for any amount of time, if this was the real world, it would have weathered. It would have, cracked, peeled, dulled. But it hasn't. There's even a nice carpet in that room. You sort of move to what you assume at first will be like a bedroom based on the layout, but it turns out to be like a small library with a single chair, sort of worn only by occupation, with a little end table next to it stacked with books. All of the books are in good repair, though they don't have any sort of titles or writing on the outside. They're just bound in cloth and on the shelves and stacked on the table and on the floor here and there. And again, getting slowly dampened by the drizzle, but you wouldn't imagine that they'd been there for long, despite the fact that this cottage clearly has been ruined for a while. Finally, coming through that room, you find sort of towards the back here a staircase, which is odd because there was definitely no second story to this thing from the outside. But
course.
you can look up and it doesn't dead end. There's a door up there, again, not in great repair, sort of leaned against its door frame rather than properly closed. Ascending the staircase and pushing the door open, you immediately feel that you have arrived. This is the heart of the chancel, and as you can see from Truth's description, it is sort of appointed like a drawing room that happens to have a bed in it. The bed itself is surprisingly plain, though nice. It's quality. It's just not decorated. It has very plain linens and bed curtains. 4 solid posts and sort of high craftsmanship construction, but without any real decoration, and a very basic finish on it. And again, still no roof, still drizzling, everything still in excellent repair. You can see the bed has an occupant that it does not take very much to identify as Celiand, but not as you've seen her before. She's under the covers, so you really only see her upper shoulders, neck, and head, but she looks oddly human. Very few of the divine bells and whistles. She is beautiful, and were she standing before you would be imposing of stature, but otherwise appears human and asleep, for what it's worth.
Would I need to penetrate Noctoritas or anything to unenchancel? Disenchancel, I suppose.
From here, you should have access to the murders that you need to use a greater destruction to get rid of them, which would be level 8 miracle.
Yep.
Also,
but that was a query about penetration, not
Indeed,
about...
you can get to all of them from here.
Mm.
Yeah. So you will not need to penetrate anything. Right.
Okay, so there's no Imperial Auctoritas or anything like that.
Well, I mean,
between
you and the murders now.
Cool. 4 miracle points.
4 miracle points. Indeed. So
I obtained just
enough.
enough.
I believe that cashes you out on domain miracle points.
For the second time this session.
Mm-hmm.
Easy come, easy go.
So,
indeed,
you, sort of concentrate. You let your power map out all of the many, many murders and sort of hold them, in your awareness, and then you release sort of your power into them and feel them wink out.
As I am doing that, I am pointing Lissa toward Sealand.
There's no need. I am currently Mavia, so my aspect is 2.
Sorry, pointing Mavia.
No, it's okay. That wasn't a correction. I'm going to spend
a clarification.
Yeah, I'm going to spend my aspect is 2. I'm going to spend the remainder of my 3 aspect miracle points.
May I also make a murderer of Mavia?
Absolutely. So I'm as fast as I can. I'm going to take Feywa's blade or the hilt in my hand and spear the woman through her heart.
I will, as you are doing that, both make a lesser creation of murder and drop my remaining 7 miracle points into it.
Okay.
Also, as fast as she can, will be very fast indeed.
All right. So
I'm fully cashed out of points here, guys.
All at once, the sky changes to full-on storm clouds, and the rain in one moment is a drizzle, and in the next is a pounding rain, as Romnet's destruction of murders returns you to wherever this was in the real world to begin with. And effectively, simultaneously, Mavia takes the bloodstone hilt that had belonged to Feywa, and as she stabs it into the sleeping woman, it elongates into a needle, piercing Celian's heart with lightning quick speed. And immediately, though it is unclear what action or miracle contributed what here, the furnishings of the cottage snap to weathered, rotting, decrepit, as they probably always should have been. It is otherwise surprisingly low on fanfare. The only particularly supernatural part of the immediate aftermath of these actions is that Celian's sleeping form does not bleed or even cease to breathe. It just fades away. And once the last visual trace of where she was sleeping was gone, the covers over her, the sheet and blankets, just fall to fill the space except where they're hitched on this bloodstone needle. Bloodstone needle itself won't be obvious to anyone but Mavia, but it is inert. It won't change to a hilt again. It still looks the same, but it feels lifeless.
I commend this death onto Dosk.
As you do so, suddenly all three of you have sort of a immediate cacophony of competing and unintelligible voices that lasts about 4 seconds and then is silent. It would appear that the barrier between you, your god anchors, and fellow Nobilis simply captured prayers, and now they have sort of arrived in a dump that you can't really make heads or tails of, but it does serve as confirmation that you're back online, as it were.
Dusk, you okay?
This time, you understand that your prayer goes through, but let us say for a little bit of poetic license, the response that you get from it is...
That's good enough.
Were there any in the influx of prayers?
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't get the meaning, but I could get who was sending them?
Not really.
I'll check in on my brother.
Okay. Just
sort of poke in, not really like expect a long conversation or anything.
Sure. You sort of bounce in, and he is eating probably lunch, you have to guess. Currently sort of scooping some preserves onto a spreading knife.
If he seems okay, then I will leave him with a sense of relief.
And so you do.
As the impression.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to briefly look through the eyes of both my anchors.
Okay. When you say both, are you including Kea in that? You have.
Oh yeah, that's
three,
right.
yeah.
All three of my anchors. Just a quick glimpse to make sure that all is well.
Sure.
Poor Kea.
any particular order there? Not that it's going to matter a ton.
I'll do Rowena first because that's closest to home base. And then Kea and Varric.
Okay.
To get multiple views of hopefully that little where Ringless is.
Mm-hmm. Rowena is looking at a book in the room you left her in with Dosk. Kea is standing outside of the nightcap, kind of looking up at the sky through the towering trees that surround Fermata, and seems to be looking for something, though you don't get, like, as you hop in, she's not got her body is not experiencing like adrenaline or anything that alarms you there.
I quickly ask, is everything okay?
She sort of jumps. She says, "Oh, milady, I think so. The wind has stopped for the first time in quite a while. I think perhaps Lord Rymulus has moved on at last."
I'm going to abort my plan to check in on Varric for now, because I assume that if everything's okay with Kea, Varric and her are kind of proximal. I'm going to pray to Rymulus.
Okay.
And ask if he is well.
All right. You pray to Rymulus. Are you well? And you sort of sense that it goes through, but you do not get an immediate response, which is usually an indication that whoever you are praying to is engaged in some fashion. and presumably he'll get back to you when he can.
I do relay my findings to the others. I say that
Sure.
per Rowena and Kay, everything seems well, but Raymalus has left and does not seem to be responding to prayer.
And Ramnet, you were praying to the artist formerly known as Truth.
Yes.
And it doesn't connect. Your words go nowhere.
Okay. I'll pop in on Croesus.
Croesus is currently it's late afternoon, early evening, and he is at one of the taller parts of Lud Manor, looking out towards the sea. Though there is nothing apparently remarkable to see. You don't see anything that catches your eye as he sort of gazes out over the town and the sea.
Okay.
Thingorian, do you make any calls on the prayer phone? You can still talk.
I think I'm probably making the rounds as well. I think starting with Ferragi.
Okay. So are you just sort of like popping in to see like they've been doing?
Yeah, exactly.
Ferragi is seated on the front seat of the wagon that she was sort of settling down in for the evening last time that you popped in on her. She's sitting on that seat next to the driver and sort of watching rural Taraxis roll by.
These vignettes are great, so I'm not sorry for making you do them.
That's fine.
Has anyone prayed to Vruta yet?
Mm-mm.
Sorry if I missed that.
Nope.
I do that.
It doesn't go through.
I check in just as briefly on Keelio.
What would Keelio be doing? Keelio is seated on a stool in a tent, making repairs to various of his clothes and outfits.
Sounds very normal and very like the apocalypse isn't currently happening, at least for him, so that's great. I think I do also check it on Timos. That'll give us a view into Calvin.
Mm-hmm. Timos is standing on the highest point of sort of the harbor promenade, looking out at the harbor and watching as the behemoths of the deep walk into the sea. Just they're disorganized, just sort of like a shuffling movement generally of the behemoths that last time you were in the city had sort of been here and there in the harbor district, just ambling into the water, seemingly all of them.
All right. Well, we can leave Paylog alone, but just last but not least, to make sure that Nima is where we left it, I check in with Entourage.
She is...
As I mentioned, I'm not sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. She is in her parlor and pouring herself a glass of tea. A glass? You don't pour tea into a glass. A cup of tea. Good Lord. Pouring herself a cup of tea.
I don't bother any of them any more than I have to,
Sure.
but I report to the others that all seems to be well.
Do you talk?
At least in those particular
Other than
places for
Vruta?
those particular people. Other than Vruta,
Yeah.
you took the words out of my mouth. Yeah, no, all seems to be well for those particular mortal people in those particular places. So whatever tumult is occurring hasn't touched those who we call anchors as yet, but we may want to see about what's going on in Bor rather urgently.
Yeah. I
will pray again to Imbi.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What do you say?
We may have killed Celeand. We hope we've killed Celeand. I hope that you are well. If you could reconnoiter with us in Bor when you can, that would be wonderful.
Immediately you get a response from Imbi that says, "That is well, for I have had to leave for Mata."
What happened?
We will talk in Bor momentarily if all is well.
Very well.
I pray.
I relay this and, yeah. Go ahead.
I pray to Opatia and repeat the information about Ruto not being responsive, one of her new familia. We may have need of you in Bor. Something might have happened. We hope we killed Celeand, but we're not sure.
After a couple of beats, you get a distracted sounding reply that says, "I will be there as soon as I am able."
Think empty thoughts, shall we?
Yeah.
And last but not least, I do a quick check-in with Philia. Are you well?
You send, "Are you well?" It is received, but no reply is forthcoming immediately.
Okay. Then empty thoughts it is.
Empty thoughts it is. And
the emptiest.
The three of you leave this meadow, wherever it happens to be on the world, and you find yourselves standing just outside of Rowena and Urian's inn in Bor, in the very bland atmosphere of that chancel. And I think that relatively peaceful, if perhaps somewhat trepidatious moment is where we will leave ourselves until next time. So that's where we'll end our session.
It's almost worse than a cliffhanger.
I mean, it is a cliffhanger. It's just dressed up nicely.
In my defense, to our listeners, if not our players, the function of ending here is less of a narrative one than a temporal one. In this particular case, it is around about the time, as far as I can tell, to wrap up, and so this is as good a stopping point as I think we're likely to get to in the near term. But everybody can get 1 mortal XP and 2 divine XP.
Ooh.
And that concludes the session of Dice Punks. Thanks for joining us. I hope our players and listeners enjoyed it as much as I did, and that you'll all join us again next time. If you're hearing us now, then you probably know where to listen to this, but we can be found almost any place one can listen to podcasts, as well as on the wider web at dicepunks.com and on Twitter as @dicepunks. As an aside, as of this recording, which may or may not be related to the time in which in your timeline this actually happens, I am in the process of attempting to diversify our social media presence. It's just very much not the sort of thing I am inclined by nature to spend a ton of time on, but I'm going to be trying to sort of get better at that in the very near future. So hopefully, at the very least, we may soon be found also in various aliases on places like Co-Host and Tumblr. But with that aside finished, I think we're ready to say farewell. So say goodbye to the kind folks at home, players.
Thanks for listening. In these times when social media networks fall like the gods of old, we hope that you'll stick with us as we build a new and hopefully better world.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Don't let anything stand between you and your goals, be that yourself or a literal plague.
Thanks for listening, folks. And don't commit murder.
Unless in self-defense.
It is, yeah, there you go. It is legal advice for once.
This is not legal advice. I am not your lawyer. I'm probably not licensed to practice wherever you may live.
In what circumstances is murder appropriate? Self-defense only?
That depends so very much on the laws of the ground you're standing on.
I am super going to move us on very quickly from that. So thank you once again. And as the poet once said, And now the calling out our bluffs, have you done a single thing for someone else, or do you take until your belly is stuffed? Thank you for tuning in, dear listeners, and stick around through the admin stuff for lines from Lissa. The songs in this episode, Theme of the Dice Punks in its acoustic version, were written and recorded by the Viscount of Tempo and his element, Drew. Cover art and editing was done by Joanne, who has appeared on the podcast now and again. Check out her work around the internet, where she goes by Anything Sows. Site design and graphics for DicePunks.com are by Robin, player behind Lissa and Mavia, the Nobilis of Fury and Madness. Rain and the one-roll engine it runs on were created by Greg Stolze, whose work can be found at gregstolze.com. Nobilis was created by Jenna Caterin Moran, who can be found at afaransunlessland.wordpress.com. Links to both systems and authors can be found on the Punk Grimoire section of our website, dicepunks.com. Thanks so much for listening. If you liked what you heard, that's reward enough on its own, but if you're so inclined, you can help us out by rating and reviewing us wherever you listen to us, telling your friends who you think would like us to give us a listen, and even by heading over to our Patreon at patreon.com/dicepunks, where we have fun rewards to backers, including patron-only Discord, and access to Dice Peak's after show for episodes 1 and following. Regardless, we hope you'll tune in again, and until then, remember, subtlety is for cowards.
I've gotten off topic with these strange venerations to listeners unknown and unseen, haven't I? Let's see. What lines haven't I shared with you? Have I told you what my shirt is made of? It's girlfriend material. Or how about the properties of metal? How it heats when bent? Not unlike how others become hot when bent against my form. These feel like relics from a foreign time, a foreign self, a mortal self. What hasn't changed is change itself. I'm a different person than I was when I spoke those lines. Odds are, and you are too. And that's okay. I hope that my lines gave you reason to smile back then, and I hope this missive brings you comfort now. And maybe that's the best we can offer each other, as humans cursed by 2 short yet 2 full lives. A kind word, a smile, a flirtatious line offered to a consenting audience, and a system that attempts to grind us down, to force us into unbefitting molds and social systems. What can be more rebellious than finding as much revelry as we have reason to rage? Or stealing fits of furious joy from all the darkness? Or staying true to ourselves, even when others would call us mad? I would need far more omnipotence than any god I've met to know the ripple effect of my defiant joy. The carriage driver who still smiles when he thinks of me. The metal-crafting youths that speak of me often and giggle to one another. The captain that catches herself thinking of me with fondness, and quickly turns her soft smile into a frown. The swamp animals that still recall when they were mighty. If my actions cause all of existence to come crashing down around us, or if I fail and the victor gets to frame me as a villain for all of history, I hope that at least this element of my consciousness remains. That I did my best, that I was true to myself, and that if even my best was not enough to rewrite this world, I am enough. And you are too, dearest listener.